Thank you for staying with us. The news begins from Ukraine, where its flow of Russian natural gas has been stopped through its territory to Europe at 7 a.m. precisely today, January 1, 2025, as a long-held deal expired. Kiev officials disclosed that they stopped the transit of Russian gas, which is a historic event. The statement was made by Herman Galuchenko, Ukraine's energy minister, who also disclosed that Russia is losing markets and it will suffer financial losses. The move had been expected as Galuchenko and other officials signed they were preparing to stop the transnational pipelines amid and also discussing the move with neighboring nations. Natural gas exported to Russia through Ukraine has long been used by European countries, including Slovakia, which had pushed for Ukraine and Russia to reach a deal to continue the transit. Russia's gas giant Gazprom confirmed the stoppage, telling state-affiliated TASS news agency that Kiev had refused to extend the transit deal. The supply of Russian gas for its transportation through Ukraine stopped at 8 a.m. Moscow time. The deal had provided for about 40 billion cubic meters of Russian gas to transit through Ukrainian territory each year. Now, an Iranian deputy foreign minister has unveiled plans for a new round of talks between Tehran and the European Troika on January 13, 2025. Speaking to reporters earlier today, Kazem Garabadi said the fresh round of talks between Iran and EU, that is France, the UK and Germany, will begin in Switzerland's Geneva on the 13th of January 2025. He insisted that the upcoming event will be regarded as talks, not negotiations, saying various subjects were mooted in the consultation. Diplomats from Iran, the UK, France and Germany held discussions in Geneva in late November 2024 last year. Meanwhile, the Arab mediators today, being the 1st of January 2025, reported that ceasefire talks between Israel and Palestinian Islamic resistance group Hamas have hit an impasse in recent days. Citing Arab mediators, the Wall Street Journal said the two sides were considering a 60-day ceasefire during which up to 30 Israeli captives held in Gaza would have been released. In exchange, Israel was to set Palestinian prisoners free and allow greater humanitarian aid flow into Gaza. But the talks, however, have been stalled. Mediators said Israel insisted that it only receive living hostages in any exchange and refused to approve the release of some of the Palestinian detainees sought by Hamas. Hamas also demanded the ceasefire be a path to end the war. Wall Street Journal added that reaching any agreement before the end of the Biden administration is highly unlikely. While back home in Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria has submitted all necessary documents to Finland to facilitate the extradition of Simon Ekpa, a prominent Biafran agitator facing charges related to terrorism. This development was disclosed by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, during an interview via a popular television station. He said, and I read, "Well, I'm sure he's cooling off somewhere. Legal action will be taken accordingly. I don't want to say too much, but I am glad he's been arrested." He expressed confidence in the Finnish government taking the appropriate steps now that the required materials have been provided. Ekpa, who was arrested by Finnish authorities in November 2024 alongside 4 others, has been accused of incitement to violence, promoting separatist propaganda and financing terrorism. However, 4 of those who were apprehended along with Simon Ekpa have been freed. The latter district court in Finland ordered his remand on probable grounds of public incitement to commit a crime with terrorist intent in Nigeria. The agitator, known for using social media to advocate for the violent secession of southeastern Nigeria, has been a central figure in the Biafran movement. His actions have drawn widespread criticism and raised concerns over security and unity in Nigeria. In a very recent development, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reiterated his administration's commitment to enhancing food production, reducing inflation on essential items like food and drugs to 15%, and strengthening the Nigerian economy in the coming year. In his New Year message to Nigerians, President Tinubu expressed optimism about the economic outlook for 2025, citing significant progress achieved in 2024 votes in 2024. He acknowledged persistent inflation and rising votes in 2024. He acknowledged persistent inflation and rising cost of essentials, vowing to intensify efforts to reduce inflation from 34.6% to 15% through reforms aimed at boosting food production and encouraging local manufacturing of drugs and medical supplies. For the new year, the president promised to consolidate further and increase access to credit for individuals and critical sectors of the economy to boost national economic output. In another development, former presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, has condemned the exclusion of the North Central Development Commission in the 2025 budget. Peter Obi said the exclusion was troubling. He called for the 2025 budget to be revised and provisions made for NCDC. In a statement made today, Obi said North Central requires special attention as a result of the security affecting the region. The former Anambra governor also emphasized that the agricultural potential of the region requires support. He called on the National Assembly to urgently review and rectify the exclusion. He also disclosed that together we must work towards a more inclusive and equitable Nigeria. And still on the world news, in a very recent development, Indonesia has actually called, or rather Australia has actually fired back or responded to the Nigerian government concerning them stating certain categories in the country as sensitive. Now, the Nigerian government cautioned its citizens against traveling to Australia due to rising cases of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. The warning is a swift response to Australia's travel warning, which was issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, citing reported cases of discrimination, harassment, and verbal abuse targeted at foreigners. According to Kimiebi Imomotimi Ebienfa, the acting spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the warning became necessary due to the unfortunate recent surge in anti-Semitic and Islamophobic hate crimes in Australia. Ebienfa noted that while Australia is known for its multiculturalism and tolerance, incidents of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism have occurred recently in certain areas. The Nigerian government's warning comes on the heels of disturbing incident in the Sydney suburb of Wuahara, where a car was set ablaze and anti-Israel graffiti was sprayed on nearby buildings. Nigerians are therefore advised to be mindful of the prevailing cultural and social dynamics to ensure their safety and comfort. To this end, extra vigilance and necessary precautions are strongly recommended. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll head into a news analysis segment where, of course, I'm joined by Peter Anosike, who is a political, national and social affairs commentator. Peter Anosike will actually be giving us some insights into some of this recent information, the first edition of the World News for the year 2025. Do kindly stay with us. Welcome back. Mr. Peter Anosike, Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
I'm so glad to see you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and this is the first edition for the World News for the year 2025, so congratulations to us. All right, let's start with what the Nigerian government has actually disclosed through the Chief of Defense Staff. He actually said that the details, the final details, finishing touches to ensure that Simon Ekpa is extradited or, brought back home is being processed. Do you think there is any possibility that the Finnish government will actually adhere to that request?
Well, two things are to be discussed here. One is the crime was committed in Nigeria, not in Finland.
The crime was committed in Nigeria.
Yes,
but he was in Finland.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But another thing is that Nigeria don't have any extradition treaty with Finland.
What if that is what they're processing? Because according to them, they have submitted all the recent final documents to Finland.
So I don't think if you can just start that process because of an individual.
Okay.
I don't think that. So from the beginning, we don't have extradition treaty with them because we have only few Nigerians in Finland, about 4,800 1900.
Okay.
So Finland is not a country that that Nigerians go to.
All right.
After, so there's nothing much happening between Nigeria and Finland. So, but so Simon Ekpa, or whatever is his name.
Whatever it is name, that's his name. It's not a whatever. That's his name.
I say whatever is his name.
Okay.
Understand me? Yes.
All right.
Yes. Because for me, he's a fake. So, because tomorrow you can still hear other names. He's a scammer. If he is supposed to answer for those crimes in Nigeria, not in Finland, because as I said, the crimes were committed in Nigeria. Those people were murdered in Nigeria. The incitement happened in Nigeria. Understand me? So it is in Nigeria that he can be appropriately charged and brought to book.
A couple of people, especially those who are in the same line of thought as you, who do not like him and like for what he stood for, actually saying they don't want him back home. They feel that it will turn to another Nnamdi Kanu semantics, where there'll be a group of persons saying they want to sit at home, clamoring for his release, or holding some certain persons to ransom, or holding the Southeast to ransom again, or they'll go through another batch of the whole Nnamdi Kanu release mantra if he's brought back home. Do you think that's a development that would come up with that?
Simon Ekpa is a paperweight. He is a shoe shiner.
You keep saying he's a shoe shiner.
And nobody can disturb anything because of him. So he's far different from Nnamdi Kanu.
General Christopher Musa has actually expressed confidence, because she said something right now that the Nigerian government has no extradition treaty with the Finnish government.
Yes, that's
so how come the Chief of Defense Staff is establishing confidence in the Finnish government taking the appropriate steps now that the required materials have been provided? Remember, I want you to bear in mind that these government agencies, sensitive government institutions, in a way or in a bid to prove their workings, the manifestation or the activities of their workings, they make promises ahead before the reality of the situation unfolds. Do we think that this is just one of those scenarios where they're supposedly giving hope that they're actively working to ensure that he's extradited, or we're going to see something that will take a very long time, since Nigeria and Finland do not have any form of extradition treaty?
Nigerian top government officials are fond of that.
Okay.
Because even Tinubu say whatever is manifest is renewed hope.
Okay.
So for me, it's not what is going to happen today or tomorrow. This is country versus country. Diplomacy takes a very, very long time. It takes a lot of back and forth.
All right.
So I'm not expecting it to happen today or tomorrow. Finnish government said that he will go on trial May 25.
Okay.
So if Nigeria can get everything ready, because Interpol is involved in this,
okay,
Mother is involved in this, and Nigeria is a top country in Africa. Okay. So I don't think that Finland will want to get into Nigeria bad book.
You sure? With what was given to the president last year?
I said, I'm not sure that Finland will want to get...
I mean, with the kind of portfolio that was given to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu last year, which a couple of people feel is not good for his international perception, him having to be counted among the world's corrupt leaders.
I didn't say Tinubu, I said Nigeria. I said Nigeria.
Who is the head of Nigeria? Right now, the representative is the president. I'm just saying.
Tinubu will come and go. Nigeria will remain. Understand me? So, I'm not talking about Tinubu. I said Nigeria. Finland would not want to be in the bad book of Nigeria. You don't go out creating unnecessary enemies.
Okay.
So Finland will not want to be in enmity with Nigeria because of Simon Ekpa.
All right. A couple of persons would say some areas in the southeast have, become. We've not heard reports of mayhem. We've not heard reports of agitation. Even if there is sit at home or not, nothing happens. What about the killings or kidnapping going on in some areas, specifically Anambra State? Would we say that those ones are politically incited and not having nothing to do with IPOB or Eastern Security Network?
Anambra governorship election is coming up this year, 2025.
Okay.
And then anywhere there's an election, there's tension is heightened.
Okay.
So I can say that nobody should expect Anambra to be totally peaceful at this point in time. Mind you, it was in 2020 that Professor Chike Akunyinde, or the husband of Dora Akunyinde, was killed, and that was election year. So anywhere there's election, there's always tension. So I can attribute that partly to the election.
All right.
I can attribute that partly to the election.
To the election, that is the case of Anambra.
Yes.
So does it mean that most of the killings that were taking place in the southeast were being carried out by Simon Ekpa's men? If a couple of reports coming from that axis are saying that indeed some areas, specifically in Imo State, is now calm, aside from what is going on in Anambra, which according to what you just described now is politically induced?
I say part of it. There's always, kidnappers will always be there. Robbers will always be there. I say heightened tension.
Okay.
Anywhere there's an election, there's always heightened tension. And for Simon Ekpa, I know that initially, those who believe in him did not felt that his arrest was fake news.
Okay.
But I know that as time goes on, it will dawn on them that this is a reality.
A couple of them still believe that he's not been arrested. A couple of them still support his movement, despite the fact that the group, ever since they established the United States of Biafra via the convention they held in Finland,
in social media,
on social media, there have been quite a lot of internal wranglings amongst them as an organization that supposedly
they are
set
struggling
up and
for money. They are struggling for money because that is why Simon Ekpa and his gang are doing that, to scam people.
So you believe that all of that was not any form of positive intention,
all of
had
them
negative intention.
Was scam.
But you still have a lot of people who trust and believe in him. He has strong, loyal supporters who feel that whatever it was he was doing was for the protection of the border of the southeast away from Fulani headers or Fulani terrorists or invaders specifically. Let me not call any tribe because there could be anyone precisely.
When Idi Amin was in power, upon all the atrocities he was committing, he still has his supporters. So it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Satan has supporters too.
Who are you referring to as Satan, Mr. Peter Noseke?
I said Satan still has supporters. If there's a voting today and there's a ballot box for Satan, people will vote there.
All right, let's look at a situation where the president made some promises in his New Year message, which a couple of Nigerians have issues with, because from the message that he reeled out and the reality that a couple of Nigerians are going through, it's not correlating. The president has actually assured that in 2025, there will be enhancement in food production, reducing inflation on essential items like drug food by 15% and strengthen Nigeria's economy in the coming year. He also disclosed that a verifiable number of progress has been made in some of the economic implementation since his administration assumed power. What's your take on that?
Well, there's what is called the information bubble. So the information bubble of the Nigerian masses is different from the information bubble of those in the presidency.
Okay.
Understand? We don't have the same information like them. Understand? I remember in 2004 when Obasanjo was in power and the Minister of Health then was boasting that they were building no-cost houses for the poor.
Okay.
So the woman then from Ondo State, they organized a press conference that to market this landmark achievement. So after talking, I asked her, excuse me, ma'am, what is the price of this houses that you are building for the poor? She said 7 million naira. That was 2004. I said, excuse me, ma'am, where will poor Nigerians get 7 million to buy
those houses or pay for those apartments?
Mind you, then minimum wage was 10,000 naira.
You can imagine.
That's 2004. When Obasanjo was head of state. Minimum wage was 10,000 naira. Then, when I asked her, where will poor Nigerians get 7 million to buy houses? She asked, does it mean that Nigerians are so poor that they cannot afford the houses of 7 million.
So she doesn't believe that there are Nigerians that poor that actually cannot even
So-
afford a house of 300,000, not even talk of 7 million naira.
That's why I said that's why I'm talking about the information
Bubble.
So because before they must arrive at that 7 million, there must have been a deliberation. The cabinet must have sat down and discussed about it. How
Okay.
much do we fix this?
All right.
So-
but okay.
In Tinubu's own, his own is on the extreme. It's not on this earth.
It's really
When he said that fuel
has reduced.
has reduced to 1,000
naira.
which he inherited at 400,
And that the naira has gotten strengthened.
at 1,500.
And that our foreign reserves has increased. So
Wait, Tinubu inherited fuel at about 400
naira per
400
liter.
naira per liter, and is now sending 1,000 naira. He inherited the exchange rate between 600 700, and it's now about 1,500. And he's saying that these things has. So you can know that he's not operating on this earth
He's not operating on the earth.
at all.
So you're saying he's still in the bubble, based on what you've described, because you
That-
just talked about information bubble.
That's why I'm saying
He's in a
that
bubble and not being realistic.
he's not being realistic. They are not being realistic.
Okay, what if this is basically what he's working with in terms
That
of
information
showing the
in
progress
his bubble.
of his economy?
That's why I talk about the he's working with information in the bubble.
All right.
That fuel has come down. Understand?
Okay.
Exchange naira is now stronger.
All right.
So that's why I say that the information that they have is not the same information that we have.
He said that the stock exchange, rather, Nigerian stock market record growth has actually generated trillions of naira in wealth. And that the surge in foreign investment reflects renewed confidence in the country's economy.
How does the stock exchange concern the woman at Oyimbo or at Agege?
Or Mount 12.
So it is a deception.
Okay.
It is a deception.
All right, but the cost of food and drugs is still a major concern for a lot of households. Up till now, from 2024, Mr. Peter Nosike, it's a scary situation for you to fall ill. It's a scary situation for you to try and go treat malaria. You can't even go to public hospitals, not to talk of affording the drugs you have to buy for it. Then special treatment patients who take special drugs, like high blood pressure patients, diabetics,
Cancer,
and all of those things.
etc.
How will they cope now?
So Nigeria, this is the wrong time that to fall sick in Nigeria because no drug is even affordable at this point in time.
Okay.
No drug is even affordable. So, and the foreign whatever investor that he's talking about, where did they come? Understand? Is it in Aso Rock that
Maybe they don't disclose all of their meetings to
So,
you or to Nigerians, so you're not even
the
setting
truth
up.
is that nobody come and no sensible man will invest.
Are
will
you
come and
sure?
invest
What
in
about all the
Nigeria.
foreign? No, you can't generalize like that, Mr. Peter Nosike. At the end of the
It
day,
is
everything
so-
is
it is-
about
it is-
politics
it is-
and
it is-
interest
it is
of any of this country, regardless of the perception of the government or the perception of the president.
It is Lebanese, Indians, and Chinese that can only invest in Nigeria.
That's your own indicator.
It is
That's
only-
your solid premise.
And these are crooked businessmen and they are coming to a crooked country. America cannot come here, Britain cannot come here under this condition.
How are you certain?
Under a corrupt
There are a couple
system.
of British companies working here.
Mention them.
That are also giving employment opportunities.
Mention them.
I may not know them. Like I said, they're working here low key.
I say it's only Lebanese, Chinese, and Indian that will come here because they are crooked businessmen going to crooked country. They know how to maneuver the corruptions in this country because they are corrupt too.
Wow. But they were not mentioned in the 2024 list of corrupt countries, including their president. So why would you generalize like that? The person that was mentioned was your president.
And you want to incite something? I don't want to go there.
I'm not inciting. I'm just saying.
I don't
when
want
you
to
said
go
they're
there.
crooked and corrupt, they weren't mentioned.
Because one, Chinese companies don't pay tax. They don't pay tax. Indian companies don't pay tax.
Even while they come here, set up their businesses
said,
and all, they still don't pay tax.
They don't pay tax
but
in
we
Nigeria.
pay tax. We pay tax. Could that be that the evasion of tax for them is to allow them flood the market and create employment opportunity? Could it be the trade by barter they have with the Nigerian government?
You cannot go anywhere and see signboard of a Chinese company or an Indian company. So they know how to manipulate the system in Nigeria.
Okay.
And that's why they can come.
So are you saying now that with all the president said, Nigerians should not trust all the things he stated, because he was quite confident, he promised to ensure that all the increased access to credit for individuals, critical sectors of the economy to boost national economic output, he promised to consolidate further. So are we saying that we should just not heed to
you
the New Year
cannot
message?
build something on nothing. You cannot build something on nothing. Right now, Nigeria is standing on nothing. So you cannot build anything on nothing.
The president is calling on governors and local councils to align with the federal government's agricultural and tax reforms to seize economic opportunities. So let's put the president aside. What about the governors of these states? What is their major input? The president cannot be everywhere, and the governors were also elected. They have their responsibilities and duties to the states that they're in charge of, including the local government, to ensure that the grassroots gets the dividends and benefits of democracy.
The biggest problem that is affecting Nigeria is insecurity. Herdsmen has taken over all the farms.
Okay.
And the security is in charge of federal government is in charge of security.
Okay.
So if there's hunger in the country, the number one person to call is Tinubu, not the governors.
Really?
Because Tinubu is in charge of security. He's the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
All right, let's look at a situation where the Nigerian government had to fire back concerning its citizens who reside in Australia. You know that Australia had actually asked their citizens to avoid certain areas, or in fact told them, give them a travel advisory not to come home. And the federal government, in responding, actually said that Nigerians in Australia should be careful because they are Islamophobic and the recent anti-Semitism. Is that the right response the government should have given to the Australian government?
99% of Nigerians will want to die in Australia than dying in Nigeria. That's the fact.
Oh, why are you certain about that?
That's the fact.
Why are you certain of that?
Even when there's workers protesting in UK over salary increment, a lot of Nigerians have said that they are ready to go there and let them not even been paid. That's to go and work for free in Britain.
Because of the major availability of social amenities and healthcare services.
Social justice, understand? Infrastructure, understand? Security, you have peace of mind.
And a system that works.
Even if you are not eating, you have peace of mind.
All right. Well, what I'm trying to say now is the comeback of the federal government to the Australian government. Would you call that a petty response?
Why did they pick on Australia? United States.
No, the Australian government, first of all, picked. They were the ones who sent a travel advisory to their citizens who may want to come to Nigeria, deterring them from coming. And those who are already in Nigeria should actually not go to certain areas or rather come back home. And so the Nigerian government then responded. So what a lot of critics are asking is, could there have been another response or a modified, more mature way of responding than having to be supposedly petty in saying, okay, if you guys think that you want to go that route, we're also saying our people that be careful and not go to Australia because they're Islamophobic? One,
the best way to respond to a critic is by results.
Okay.
When they say that your country that doesn't protect lives and properties, you show them the opposite. Understand me?
All right.
You show them the opposite. So Australia value their countries, value their citizens. They value their citizens. That's why they are issuing this traveling this thing
advisory
warnings.
Okay.
Nigeria don't do it.
All right. That's why.
So this is just a kind of let us just do something to be in the news.
Oh, really? That's how you see it? Just do something
and be in the news.
And be in the news, really?
That is it.
I was just asking about their response, and you think it's just for them to be in the news?
To be in the. When did it start?
It was. I think it was yesterday.
I said, when did Nigeria government start issuing
travel advisory?
Understand me? So they just want to be in the news.
All right, Mr. Peter Anosike, let's look at a situation where there are quite a lot of reactions that trailed Peter Obi's message, that was sent to Nigeria on New Year's Day. The question is, why is it that anytime he responds to issues or responds to anything that is plaguing the country whatsoever, he is always, everything he says is always picked on? Every other person responds to national issues or things of national interest. Why is his response always dissected?
Well, if there are 3 trees standing in the bush and people are throwing stone at one, if you go there, the one that they are throwing stone at has the fruits.
Okay.
The other ones don't have fruits, so nobody cares about those ones. So P2B is a force. P2B is a wave. P2B is a tsunami to this government.
A tsunami to this government?
Sure.
I don't know if you've been on social media, specifically X lately. There've been a lot of decampaigning on the Labour Party and his person. And he may have lost quite a huge number of supporters since the way the whole 2023 elections went. And his, continued silence in the debacle within the Labour Party. There are speculations that he may actually eventually leave. Do you think this will be a nail in his political career, in terms of a nail on his political career, if he intends to continue the surge and there? Or do we see Peter Obi not continuing again in 2027, despite several pleas from his supporters and the obedient movement to actually come out in 2027?
Well, one, to start with, Peter Obi is an adult.
Okay.
He is enlightened, then he knows what is good for him.
Okay.
So nobody can advise him on what to do.
All right.
That's to start with. Then LP, he is bigger than Labour Party. Labour Party was a carcass before P2B breathed into it and it became a living being. Understand me? So without obedience, Labour Party is dead. And Labour Party is not. It's a movement.
All right.
Obedience is a movement.
All right, but Mr. Peter Anosike, before I let you go, this particular final question is the outlook, the way things were in 2024. There are very strong indicators that, he may leave. Doyin Okukwe said it as well, that we shouldn't be surprised to hear he has left. The obedience are saying, okay, Peter Obi, you need to come out and tell us precisely what your stand is. Are you going to come out in 2027, or do we start scouting for someone that represents what we see in you, that we believe can lead us in the right direction or lead us in the right path, towards the 2023 elections? So are we saying that maybe there are some persons who know that he may run again in 2027, or like we said, it's a possibility that this is just it? Because the measure that we're hearing about, Kwankwaso has come out to dispute all of the claims that there is no talks whatsoever with Peter Obi or Atiku.
Well, for me, right now, 1st of January 2025, Peter Obi remains the only person that represents Nigerian frustration.
Represents Nigeria's frustration.
Sure. And that Peter Obi remains the only person that represents Nigerian frustration. That's what Nigerians are looking at, what they're not happy with, and the person that can change it.
Okay.
Peter Obi remains the only one. Understand me? And the economy is not going to get better in 2025, which means Peter Obi will be very, very relevant in 2025.
What?
As Nigerians are going through hunger, they know that there's a savior, that somebody that can do it better somewhere else, and that's P2B. So P2B will be relevant in 2025.
Mr. Richard, a couple of persons will say that you ought to be positive for 2025.
The budget has failed.
The president just gave you indicators of a positive economy for 2025.
Of price of fuel that has come down
for him
in his bubble. Then the naira that is getting stronger in his bubble. So we and Tinubu are not living in the same world.
All right, Mr. Peter Anosike, Happy New Year to you once again.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for giving us your insight on the World News at 12.
Yeah, thank you
We
for having
sincerely
me.
do appreciate your input.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. And now to wrap up the World News at 12, here again are the top stories. Ukraine halts pipeline carrying Russian natural gas to Europe as deal expires. Iran, EU, 3 nations to hold new round of talks on January 13. Gaza ceasefire negotiations have been stalled. Federal government moves to bring Simon Ekpa home for terror-related charges, submits final documents to Finland. President Tinubu makes promises on price of fuel, food, others in New Year message to Nigerians. Peter Obi condemns exclusion of NCDC in 2025 budget. And Nigerian government fires back, urges citizens to avoid traveling to Australia. That's a wrap on the World News at 12. My name is Esther Wachuku. Once again, Happy New Year to you. See you precisely at 1:30 p.m. for matters to stay with us. Quite a lot of interesting programming coming your way.